Hello and welcome to the FDT-TV podcast, the first one of October, and the PGMOL is under scrutiny again, as well as VAR, this time for a really obvious error that the computer operator picked up. In fact, he wasn't even a referee or an assistant referee, so what we've been saying for fucking years is 100% correct. I think it was Darren England who was the VAR assistant. He's been removed for the next two duties. I think he should be sacked because they're on a lot of money to get these things right. And clearly, one of two things: he's on the take or he's blind. I don't know which, but either way, he shouldn't be refereeing at all ever again. Get him out of the game. Um, Here's the thing, Mike. I don't want to go on about it too much, but it was a glaring error. We've had a few this season that have been really, really bad. The first week was really good. After that, it's been downhill ever since. Do you think this is going to be the final straw? That there's no way that this is defensible. They've already issued an apology. The voice bit that's come out clearly shows that they've made a mistake and just don't know what to do about it.
Yep.
Do you think this is going to be the bit that is sort of, say, the beginning of the end of VAR? But it's so indefensible.
Yeah,
There's got to be some sort of inquiry.
yeah. There's sorry, just to go back on the first bit you said about it was all right week one. I disagree with that one, and probably just to jog your memory a little bit, it was the Man United Wolves game where Wolves should have had a penalty literally in the first week. So it's been, dare I say,
yes, no, you are right.
yeah,
You're right.
it's been
Point taken.
dog shit literally all season. Excuse my language. It's something we've been talking about for the last few years, or basically since it's been involved in the game. If you go back to our earlier podcasts, and I mean, even when you were away, there was some controversy, and I tried not to kind of bang on about it too much because it seems to be something that's discussed on a weekly basis now. Just how poor the standards are. I mean, dare I say it's probably got worse since Howard Webb's been in charge of the PGMOL. If you think about it.
Yeah,
With
and Manchester United are not even benefiting from that. I mean, that's
yeah, when you think about it, well, they'd issued a couple of apologies last year. Obviously, we've been one of them with the game against Brentford, but I think they've already come out and issued 3 or 4 apologies already this year. And as you said, we're only in October. It's crazy. And sorry. For those of you that are watching, we are recording this on Tuesday night. Arsenal are currently playing RC Lens in the Champions League, and we've just gone 1-0 up. Gabby Jesus has scored an absolute peach of a goal. But yeah, sorry, back to your point. Do I think it's the beginning of the end? Unfortunately, no. I think it's going to be around. They've invested a lot of money into the technology. Unfortunately, it's not the technology that's the issue. It's the human error, and I've said this all along when it comes to subjectiveness and stuff like that. You could have 3 or 4 people looking at decisions, not necessarily offsides, but you could have 3 or 4 people looking at those or decisions subjectively, and all 4 of them could potentially come up with a different scenario. Unfortunately, this one where they've come out and said that the offside trap is going to be the one that can't be disputed because the technology is being calibrated at all the grounds and all this sort of stuff. They've still managed to fuck that bit up. So no, I don't think it is the beginning of the end. I think it's going to be around for a lot of time, a lot of years to come. All football fans are just going to have to suffer the fact that errors are going to be made, staff can be replaced. The only thing I can think that the Premier League could do with benefiting from is speaking to the likes of the TMOs in rugby, the third umpires in cricket, all this sort of stuff, just to get all of American football where they do have, or where their technology's been in play a lot longer, and try and take some learning from it, because that's the only way they're going to learn from their mistakes. It's all very well and good coming out and saying, oh yeah, it's we've hold our hands up, we'll suspend these people, it's not going to make the blindest bit of difference. We could be talking about potential title-winning decisions here, because let's be honest, Liverpool have been on an absolutely outstanding run this season already, and dare I say it, possibly ones to challenge for the title this year, and already they've been disadvantaged because of one or two people's error. And as you said, it was the replay operator that called it out and said you've got it wrong.
Yeah, I mean, they've been on the good end of bad decisions more often than not. Burnley have also just scored against Luton. It is going to VAR though, as far as I know. So it could be ruled out. But it's one of those that there's no. They were funny about releasing the audio for it, where the open, if they're open and transparent, and there's an understanding as to why that mistake was made. There is no understanding as to why that mistake was made, which was my job at that little joke. Either he's on the take or he's blind, because it was clear. It was clear and obvious. I understand the on-field official making the mistake, but when we didn't have VAR, we did have mistakes. We did have some inconsistency in how the rules were applied.
Yep.
But which has changed a little bit this season. I think that the on-field referees have been applying some of the rule changes and how they want to run it more consistently. There's still anomalies, but more consistently. But you did have a clanger every now and again. Do you know what I mean? Every third week, there was a bit of a howl. Oh, that was a horrible challenge that you only got a yellow for. Or there was an offside that was obviously offside, but the linesman was too far behind play and didn't give it. But there was a lot less controversy than there is now.
Yep.
And it was brought in to bring out to get rid of the controversy. All it's done is it's made a mockery of it. And I think for years and years and years, people have been saying the Premier League is the best league in the world. Premier League is the best league in the world. As a player, with the likes of Qatar coming in with the big money, I don't see why a top player now wants to come to the Premier League. Because actually, the game's quite slow because of the VAR stuff. If the challenges are fairly heavy, considering it's a non-contact game.
Yep.
That don't get blown up now. So you do increase the chance of injury in some sense. You still get all the diving, which doesn't get picked up by VAR. So that's not ruled out. Half your goals are going to be ruled out incorrectly. What incentive, unless you're one of the big clubs that is paying mega money, do you have to play in the Premier League? I don't understand what it would be.
No, you're...
I'd rather go and play in Qatar in front of 4,000 people for £100 million a week. Do you know what I mean? As a footballer, and go, well, actually, I'm set for life. I've only got to play one season, then fuck it, I'll do whatever I like. I really don't understand what the draw of the Premier League would be anymore.
No, I in some ways, I completely agree. I think the only thing that you could say is going back to an earlier video that we have done about the whole big or prestigious conversation. Yeah. The only thing you're going to really have at the moment is the history of clubs. I suppose is the only real. I mean, don't get me wrong. There, as you've already just mentioned it, that there are instances where you've got obviously the likes of Man City, who have won the Champions League, the FA Cups, the League Cups, and all this sort of stuff. So you do kind of want to be playing for the best teams, but you're right in terms of the in terms of the Premier League, it seems a bit of a mockery of when you look at the likes of your Alan Shearers, your Michael Owens, your Teddy Sheringham's playing in that sort of era. Granted, I know the game's moved on a lot since then, but when you're talking about potentially a handful of incorrect decisions over the course of a season, and you're getting, I suppose, those chances or those errors kind of even themselves out over the course of the season. You look at the errors that were made last season alone, and the table could have been completely different with the likes of people picking up incorrect, or VAR picking up incorrect decisions and all this sort of stuff, it could have been a completely different league. Not so much, I dare I say it, near the top, but certainly for some of the lower teams, you've got possible relegation decisions that are now being impacted, and it is a joke. I don't understand for a league that is so world renowned that we can't seem to get staff to make the correct fucking decision. It's poor communication.
And it's not. Yeah, and it's not like the system in the UK is broken for referees. They have even to be a Sunday League referee, you've got to do through a lot of training, and actually they've got a harder job than the Premier League ones are. Most of them do it for free, and then you work your way up. One of the rules to be a referee is you can't have facial hair. That's one of the rules to be a top tier referee. You have to have special dispensation to be able to have facial hair. So it's silly things like that, but they also get paid like 70 grand a year basic. They get loads of bonuses for every game they play and things like that. And if you're being paid that much, you should be the top. A mistake should happen once in a blue moon. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
That you're in that position because you are the best of the best of the best. Clearly, the people we've got that are the best of the best of the best either aren't, or I can't get my head around it.
No,
I can't get my head around it. But there is another thing. Curtis Jones' red card, which we spoke about briefly before we started recording, where he went over the top of the ball into the ankle, has been upheld. I think Liverpool were hoping that because they got it so wrong, they'd go, "Oh, we'll rescind it just to make up for it."
Yep.
I think we were both in agreement that what we said was actually there's been a few of those challenges this year, and okay, there might not be the intent to go over the ball, but it's been applied consistently, and the red cards have been applied consistently. So I think we both think that's it was a dangerous challenge, so it is a red.
Yep, 100%.
That's
yeah. No issues for me on that one. That was I mean, I think it was quite fortunate his leg wasn't completely planted, because you see the angle, which is his leg went over his foot. That is a potential leg breaker. That's out for a season minimum kind of break. Had his foot been planted. So yeah, no qualms for me on that one.
So there is also big news. It's not Premier League news. I know we usually focus on Premier League, but this is a club that is probably quite close to both of our hearts. Southend United. There has been an agreement for Sal because they were facing being wrapped up by HMRC because they were going back to court. A debt of over £270,000 has been paid by a consortium led by an Australian fella, and Mr. Ron Martin, who is the current owner of Southend and the owner of Roots Hall and their training ground, has agreed to sell the club. Now, I don't think this is the end of the road for Southend and Ron. I think with his wily businessman-like things, he may well sell the club, but he still owns everything else. And I think that's where the problem may lie. They may find themselves having to pay either astronomical prices to rent the places, or being just turfed out completely. And it's one of those things you think he may not sell the club yet. There's an agreement. Doesn't mean he's sold it. There's an agreement. It's not, this contract's not been signed.
Yep.
And there is a little part of me thinks he's going to just go to these people. Thanks for paying my bill. Now, fuck off. So, I mean, it would be nice to see Southend raise. It's a huge club in terms of fan base, home and away every time. But it's an interesting saga that's to on go. Obviously, they weren't that long ago in the Championship. So yeah, hopefully they can get back up to sort of League One Championship sort of standard, and we have another big fan base of football fans supporting up and down the country.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, with that side of things, I get when you get relegated, you get there is a difference in fees and play prices you play for players and things like that. But he didn't actually change any of the playing staff or the contracts when he went from League Two to the Championship. So he would have earned more money doing that, and there were very few ups in outgoings. So it does make you wonder how it's got into that much debt, considering it's pretty much a sellout every week.
Mm-hmm.
Is it the sort of thing where perhaps you think the government should get involved at a certain point and go, no, we're taking this off of you, and we're going to find someone else to run it properly, or it's sort of as a you can't buy anyone until someone buys it. If a club's clearly, as Southend has been running to the ground, the way it's all been divvied up as to the club doesn't own anything. It's got 8 first team players that are paid. People haven't been paid in ages. Surely the government should go, no, hang on, you're not allowed that no more. Don't care what you've done with it. They did it with Chelsea, and that was being run in line with all the rules and regulations. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they've got the ability to do it. They just don't want to.
Yeah, it's a very difficult one to answer that. I suppose when you've got something, a commodity like that does provide jobs and income and stuff to the city, the town, wherever it's based, it does make it a little bit more difficult for the government to potentially not step in, because effectively it's revenue for the council. You've got local businesses that will profit from fans travelling, obviously home fans going to your chip shops, to your pubs, to all that sort of business.
I'm not saying shut it down, but like they did with Chelsea, where they took it off of Abramovich and said, we're now holding this till an appropriate buyer can be found.
Yeah, I was waffling just there. I was getting to that point, that for those sorts of instances, you would like to, when you think of the number of clubs that have gone into administration recently, you do have to wonder that you would have some sort of like external auditor or someone coming in looking at how the club is being run and all that sort of stuff. And at that point, if you can see, obviously we've mentioned over the course of the last couple of weeks or the last couple of months about the number of appearances that Southend United FC have been in and out of court due to unpaid bills and tax bills and all this sort of stuff. So you would like to think that there should be some sort of intervention, possibly not necessarily from the government, but even from the governing body. So the FA in this instance, because at the end of the day, you have got people's livelihoods at risk for it, and it's not like the FA are short of a few quid. No. As well, so you'd like to think, even taking care of ex-professionals, I think more could be done in terms of looking after them, but certainly how clubs are run, there should be some sort of intervention if you can see that they are being poorly run, and go, do you know what, you can't do that anymore. But at the same time, would you expect the government to come in and bail out every sort of business that seems to be kind of going under? I suppose that's, I think it was an exceptional circumstance in Chelsea's case because of the Russian links. Obviously we had the war is still going on at the moment. Obviously Abramovich supposedly tied to Putin and all that sort of stuff. So
it's one of those things. If a company, this is getting out of football, I think in short of answer, I think if a company is part of a big governing body, I think the way you put it is probably better. Such as the FA, there are requirements to be part of it. There are things they have to have at their stadiums at certain levels and things like that. They should have a team of people in place, because it shouldn't be every club. It should be few and far between. If you're running your club into the ground, and you can see that by your accounts, and you got to a point where you're making court appearances regularly, or you haven't, like the first time you don't pay your staff, we're going to remove that from you. And you've got two options: either we kick you out the league completely, or we take the assets. But in some sense, there needs to be a power given by the government for them to be able to do that, because I don't think they can just appoint somebody. But it is a case of there are a lot of dodgy owners in football clubs. There has been. They do this fitness test, don't they, allegedly, which is, have you got the money to buy it? And most of the time it's, oh yeah, I can show I've got money to buy it, but I haven't really. It's just sort of moving it from here to there and this and that and the other. There's a deal goes on. I know it goes on every day in different businesses, but I do think there needs to be something more to owning a football club other than, oh, I've got some money to start off with. I mean, the guy who owned Billericay Football Club for a while built it up. They did really well, spent loads of money on stuff that he really didn't have. He's in charge of another football club now. Developed the stadium without any planning permissions, this, that, and the other. And then went, oh, do you know what? People are after me for money and people don't like me because I'm on drugs all the time. So I'm going to leave now. And then the club was like, well, actually, we're in loads of shit with the council. We're in loads of problems with debt to different people. There were all sorts of other things. At not one point did this guy have to answer to anybody. He's just gone. That's it. End of. Oh, I'm going to go and buy another club and do the same thing. And it's just like, there's got to be a control in place, I think. But we can't get VAR right, so how are we going to do that? Little problems first. In better news, Arsenal did win 4-0.
Yes, very comfortably as well. Obviously, it's one of the 3 o'clock games, so the only action I saw was on Match of the Day. But yeah, it looks like a very comfortable win. Goals from Saka, Kai Havertz, Martin Odegaard, and Ben White. Obviously, Kai Havertz has got his Premier League campaign for Arsenal on the way now, or underway, should I say? Sorry. So yeah, really positive, really comfortable performance. Didn't really look like being tested too much, and a win's a win, so I can only help build momentum for this game at the weekend. So I'm hoping that, obviously, given the current situation with Man City, obviously we spoke about it briefly earlier about Man City obviously in a bit of a dire straits as it stands at the moment. Oh, I say dire straits, that's a slight exaggeration.
They've lost 2 games.
Yeah. One in the league.
For a team that's done what they've done recently, I think that is dire straits at the moment.
Yeah, so I'm hoping it puts us in good stead. Sorry, just a quick Champions League update. It's currently 1-1. Bukayo Saka has just come off injured, which doesn't bode well, and Fabio Vieira is coming on. But yes, very, very happy with the result. Obviously puts us back into third, I believe, only on goal difference behind Tottenham. I think we're on the same number of goals, but it must be goals for or goals against that's come into play now. So yeah, really happy.
Another big result of the weekend was Aston Villa tonking Brighton 6-1.
Yep.
Now it's not something that you'd expect every day of the week, but Brighton seem to be blowing really hot and cold this season. They had their moments where they looked like the powerhouse last year, and then they've come across Aston Villa, who are not blowing us or blowing the league away, and get tonked 6-1. So I mean, do you think that's a case of, obviously the Champions League has now, and the Europa Leagues have now started? They're playing extra games. Their squad depth maybe isn't what it needs to be to compete at that level and as often.
Yep.
Or do you think it's just it was just an off day?
You could probably attribute it to several things. Obviously, the increased number of games is always going to have an impact on a club. I think it was someone said on TalkSport the other day about the number of games that players are playing throughout the course of a season. Obviously, you got your 38 plus however many you get in early stages of European competitions and all that sort of stuff. You could be racking up 50, 60 games a season. Plus, then obviously we've had the Euros, the World Cup. It's having a massive knock-on effect, I think, over the course of the current fitness of players is obviously coming into question with injuries and stuff. So yes, I would say a bigger part of it is to do with the increased number of games, but you are going to get these kind of like freak results. Obviously, we saw Newcastle tonk. I can't remember who it was a couple of weeks ago. 8-0.
Sheffield
Yeah,
United.
exactly. So that you are going to get those freak results coming or cropping up.
Yep.
But I would say it's probably due to squad depth and number of games.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. And I mean, the other one that we mentioned briefly there in dire straits, Manchester City. Did you see them losing to Wolves at the weekend?
No, and I could probably bet that the majority of people had Man City down to win on every bet slip, and yeah, that was well, we said it before. It's a massive coupon buster for everyone. I'm kind of glad that they have been defeated because it shows a kind of like a chink in the armor. Obviously,
Yeah.
I know they're missing a couple of key players. Obviously, they're missing De Bruyne at the moment because of injury, etc. But it's almost like that point where Rocky Balboa cuts Ivan Drago in Rocky 4. So this guy is not, or this team is not a machine. It's a man sort of thing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sorry to
Well,
quote
I
a little
like
bit
it.
of Rocky there, but it is good to see that they do have a chink in the armor and they can be beaten. I think I'd be very surprised if they go to the third game on the bounce with another defeat. Obviously, we're both playing in the Champions League this week, I believe. So obviously, time will tell. We'll see what happens. But if I'm being completely honest, I know we're going to get onto the predictions in a little bit, but I can't see us winning that one if I'm being completely honest.
I don't know. It's strange, isn't it? And then we see Crystal Palace beating Manchester United.
Yeah, they are.
They're actually only now a point. Manchester United are only a point in front of Chelsea now.
It's not been a great start for Man United. A lot of the United fans that I've been listening to on radio shows and social media, they not happy. Granted, with the way that the performances have been recently, there's a lot of calls for Marcus Rashford not doing enough, Casemiro not doing enough, Bruno Fernandes not doing enough, and some people have said is Ten Hag kind of out of his depth at the moment, not being able to control egos and stuff like that with the likes of the ones you see in the Manchester United team. So I'm a little bit surprised, obviously, given his start at the club, and you could obviously liken it to your Mikel Arteta when he took over for us. But yeah, I'd be very surprised if the way they are playing as it stands at the moment, given in the Premier League, I'd be very surprised if he lasts another 5 games and the results continue the way they are going at the moment.
I mean, they've not been playing the best of they. It's one of those that I think you hit down the head. It's very the situation Mikel Arteta was in a couple of years ago, where he's trying to get rid of the deadwood. He's trying to get rid of the bad influence. And Arsenal backed him and trusted him to the point where they released players. That it wasn't a case of having to sell them. No, just get rid of them.
Yep.
I still think the Glazers having say that summer of we're going to sell the club, and then not. I think that still has a big effect on it.
Mm-hmm.
When you look at their team, I do think they have the ability to turn their season around, without a doubt. Obviously, they finished where they finished last season for a reason. But it's one of those they've got to get going sooner rather than later, because the more they lose, I think they're 8 points behind Tottenham and Arsenal now in second and third. That if that gap gets to 12 points, 15 points, that's a huge comeback to sort of then start trying to fight for fourth, where you've got Liverpool, who are playing well, bar VAR. Aston Villa are still up there. Brighton are still up there. West Ham are up there. Newcastle haven't quite got going, but they're playing well. Do you know what I mean? You can see that at some point it's going to click into motion, and they're all going to shoot up the table again.
Yep.
Another big one, Chelsea won against Fulham. which I don't think a lot of people would have seen coming. Mudryk, I think, finally scored for them. Is this the start of them starting to pull it together, do you think?
I
Or do you think it's an anomaly?
I was thinking of this myself over the last couple of days as to, is this the potential for a resurgence from Chelsea? But
Yeah.
there's part of me, obviously, given their history, that you kind of, I don't want this to sound like I'm a Chelsea supporter, but because I'm not. I would like to see them doing better. Obviously, given the money that they have spent on the club, you would like to think there is some kind of rationale behind it. And obviously, I know it's all new beginnings. There's lots of new players that have come in. They've got a new manager, got to adapt his new philosophies and all this sort of stuff. So it's always going to take a bit of time. But because they've been so inconsistent, I wouldn't be surprised if they lose or draw their next game. Would not be surprised at all. But at the same time, now that it has been a couple of weeks, they have now got a win under their belt. Will this be the kind of catalyst to move on? You could kind of see it from both sides. But my gut feeling is that because they have been so inconsistent, I would go with either a draw or a loss on the next game.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I mean, I don't know who they're playing, but I don't know if you want to add it in to the weekly predictions, because every week we make some predictions for this trophy here, the predictions trophy. And one thing is, I'm not the current holder of the trophy. Well,
no, you are not.
I am, but I'm not. I'm currently holding the trophy, but I'm not the holder of the trophy. So every week we predict. Generally, it's an Arsenal or West Ham game. If you haven't seen this already, and we sometimes put in another game. This week it's whatever the Chelsea fixture is.
Burnley versus Chelsea.
Chelsea. Burnley are winning at the minute. So two teams going in with it full of beans. But if we get the correct result, or the correct score, you get 3 points. If you get the correct result, you get 1 point. If you get neither of those things, you go home with nothing. Not even a paperweight to go, thank you very much, you've taken part. That's why I stole the trophy and I've kept it. So, Mike, this week, obviously you said Chelsea, Burnley, it's West Ham, Newcastle, and Arsenal, Manchester City. Where do you want to start?
We'll start on the Saturday, which is, in fact, no, sorry, we're both on a Sunday because we've got European football. We'll start on the Saturday, though, because that is the Burnley versus Chelsea game at 3:00.
And who is at home?
Burnley.
Can they do it on a cold Saturday night in Burnley? Saturday afternoon? Who knows? It's a shithole on it. Sorry, Burnley fans, but if you live there, just move out. Do you know what I mean? You can't live on a river somewhere. You're better off. Burnley, but I was going to say Burnley, West Ham. Burnley, Chelsea. I'm going to go Chelsea win. I'm going to go. That's going to be the catalyst. They're going to follow it on. I'm going 3-1 to Chelsea.
Okie dokie. I am going to go for, like I said, it's either going to be a Burnley win or a draw. I'm going to go for a draw on this occasion. Like I said, I know Burnley, they are trying so hard. Obviously, they got, or they're currently getting the result against Luton as it stands at the moment. We said it was 2-0.
1-0.
Oh, it's still 1-0. Yeah, it is a Burnley. I can see blowing hot and cold constantly throughout the season. So yeah, I'm going to go for 2-2 on this one.
Fair enough.
And then the next game that we've got is Newcastle versus West Ham.
I'm just trying to see who Newcastle are playing PSG tomorrow. So we've got Freiburg tomorrow as well. Oh no, sorry, on Thursday. So we've got less of a rest. But they're playing Paris Saint-Germain. And that's going to be where their first team is playing, isn't it? I mean, when they beat Sheffield United, it was a rotated squad. It was a good rotated squad. Don't get me wrong; they won 8-0. But they've been our bogey team. We've played them the last couple of seasons to start off with, and it's really not gone well for us. It's a hard one. I think they're going to be obviously heavily in control of the game. I think they're going to have a lot of possession, but we've been blinded again on the counter attack this year. I did see an unpopular opinion that James Ward-Prowse hasn't scored any direct free kicks this year, so we've wasted our money. A very unpopular opinion. It wasn't mine. I will make that. But he's only had one. What am I going to go for this? I'm going to go a bit more confident, because usually with these results I go, we're going to get tonked. Because it's a rotated squad, I think we could end up with something. I think there could be a mistake, a sloppy challenge, which does give us a free kick. Or saying, I'm going to go 1-1. We're going to get a solid point against Newcastle, which I would be quite happy with, to be fair. 1-1 West Ham Newcastle.
Okay, fair enough. I don't know where I sit with this one. This is a little bit of a difficult one. Do you know what? I think I'll go draw as well. But I'm going to be four lapses of concentration across both defences. I'm going to go for 2-2.
That's what I was going to go with originally, but I thought, no, I'm going to stick to it. Stick to the brain, not the gut.
You watch, it's going to be a James Ward-Prowse equaliser in the 96th minute.
Free kick from 807 yards out. Yeah.
Yep. And then moving on, finally, we've got Arsenal versus Man City.
Yep.
A game, like I said to you earlier, I'm really not confident about this one. I think since Arteta's been in charge, we haven't won a game against Man City in the league. Obviously, we've done FA Cups and cup competitions against them. But as far as the Premier League goes, I don't think we've picked up any points since Arteta's been in charge. So I'm going to go for more of the same. I know we are at home. But I do not fancy our chances on this. I'm going to go for a 3-1 to Man City.
Ooh, interesting. Interesting you should say that. I think you might get something out of this game. I mean, you're one of two teams that are still undefeated, being yourself and Tottenham. I think the Bournemouth game was a big change from last year. I think last year that's a game you slip up in. You go 3-0 up and then you draw 3-3. So I think you're going to get that. Obviously, Saka being injured isn't great. Is Martinelli still out?
I think he's too short for tonight, but possibly back in. Thomas Partey's back in full training, so you could see a Declan Rice, Thomas Partey defence.
But that's not necessarily always a good thing. No. They haven't played many minutes together, have they? I'm going to go. Both some key injuries there, aren't there, for both teams? I'm going to go, and this is a big score. Oh, am I? I was going to go 3-2 to Arsenal, because I think Haaland will get a goal or two. Yeah, fuck it, 3-2 to Arsenal. I think you're going to pip them. I think there's going to be an own goal in there. There's going to be a penalty, and there's just going to be a team goal. Do you know what I mean? And I think Haaland's going to get two. That's my prediction. 3-2.
Okay.
Arteta's first points against his former boss.
Right, so just to recap, we've got 1-1 Newcastle, West Ham United, 2-2 for me. Arsenal, Man City, you've gone for 3-2, I've gone for 3-1 to City. And then Chelsea versus Burnley, you've gone 3-1 to Chelsea, I've gone 2-2. Just to recap on last week, I know we've spoken about the games, but we'll just go through the point system. So Bournemouth Arsenal, you had 2-0 to Arsenal, I had 3-1, score was 4-0, so it's a point each. West Ham versus Sheffield United, you went for 3-1, I went for 4-0, it was 2-0, so it's a point each. And then Tottenham versus Liverpool, you had 3-3, I had 3-1 to Liverpool. Score was 2-1 to Tottenham, so 0 points each. So that's 2 points each for the week.
Oh, no, I don't know, do I?
So
It should have been 3-3. There was enough goals for it.
and then the season totals, we are both, so not much change. It's 14 points each for the season.
So it's a lot close call. I'm not going with so many lavish things. Maybe I should have done a few 8-0s this season because it's happened. This was the wrong team. But yeah, so I mean, have you got anything else to add footballing wise in terms of?
No, I think we've done some comprehensive discussions there today. And to be honest, I think it is kind of warranted. God knows how many more wrong decisions we're going to see from VAR this season. I don't think, or they're going to be under such scrutiny again. So it wouldn't surprise me if we see everything kind of strict to the letter again for the next week or so, and then back to the usual drivel. So we'll see.
We will see, and so will you. So tune in next week for normally back on a Monday or a Tuesday. And yeah, I've been Ian.
I've been Mike.
We are FDT-TV in one. Make sure you're subscribed. See you soon.
See you later.